Join me as we dive into the fascinating world of the Ayyubids in Age of Empires 4, a civilization shaped by the legendary Saladin and his fight for justice during the Crusades. In this video, we will talk about the rich history behind their rise to power and their unique mechanics and units in the game. We will also compare game elements to real life. The 900 and the 1000 were an unstable period of time in the Middle East. The Great Abbasid Caliphate, which had ruled the Middle East since seizing power in 750, was split apart due to internal and external factors, such as political instability, corruption, succession disputes, invasions, and religious conflicts. And this marks the end of the Abbasid era as a centralized political entity. One of these new states was called the Fatimid Caliphate. The Fatimid Caliphate covered an area from the North Africa and later extended up to Egypt. To put this shortly, to go down to business, in the early 11th century, the arrival of the Crusaders and also some internal conflicts led to the split of their territories as well. After the Crusaders took a lot of lands from the Fatimid, the next on the line was Tyre, and the siege of Tyre was relieved with the help of the Turks. And this is something you can experience and play yourself in the first scenario of the campaign in the DLC of Age of Empires 4, the Sultans Ascend. Now, the Crusaders were also very interested in Egypt, and to prevent that they would establish there, Nur al-Din, I hope I'm saying this right, sent reinforcements to the area, and many campaigns against the Crusaders were dispatched by him. And this is also something you can play yourself in the second scenario of the campaign in the game. The leader of these campaigns to Egypt was Sharko, and he enlisted his own nephew as an officer to support him, to accompany him, and that nephew was Saladin. After defeating the Crusaders, however, they stayed in Egypt, and Saladin was named vizier as soon as his uncle died. And this was relatively easy for Sharko to realize, because Saladin was very young, so he was seen by everyone else as a weak person, someone they could just control and manipulate. So they accepted and they let him act as a vizier. But Saladin couldn't have proven everyone more wrong. Saladin actually took advantage of the whole situation with the mess, the chaos caused by the Crusaders' arrival, and took control of the country. And Saladin also switches the Fatimid allegiance towards the Abbasid Caliphate again. The Battle of the Blacks was an important turning point for Saladin. It was in this battle that the last army of the Fatimid was defeated by his army, composed mostly of Kurdish and Turkish cavalry. And with that, Saladin was able to establish his own dynasty in 1171 and named it after his own father, Ayyub. Now, the Ayyubids flourished under Saladin's rule. Saladin forged important commercial alliances and established positive relations with Europe, boosting their economy like crazy. Another important conflict was the Battle of Hattin. This is the third scenario in the campaign in the game and involves the Crusaders and Saladin's forces. Saladin was also a very strategic man, very intelligent, and he would consider all the variables available to him when engaging in battle. So in this Battle of Hattin, he actually forced his opponents to fight against him in a very unfavorable area. It was extremely dry and the Crusaders had absolutely no access to water. And on top of that, he set on fire some regions nearby to lift up the smoke and make it also hard to breathe. And when the Crusaders were trying to run for their lives, they didn't want to fight there anymore. They noticed that they had no chance. Well, Saladin hits with a surprise attack with cavalry archers. So yeah, it suffices to say that not many people survived, and those who did, they were taken as prisoners. But one of these survivors was the king of the Franks, Guy. Guy was taken as prisoner and was taken afterwards to Saladin's tent to surrender. And he assumed, since he was a king, he assumed that he was going to be killed by Saladin. But Saladin said, "Don't worry, dude. Don't worry, dude. Kings do not kill kings.
A king does not kill a king.
Now, in the game, the Ayyubids is a variant civilization. They have similar units, they have the same voice lines, the same soundtrack, and the landmark has the same system to age up, and it's still the House of Wisdom. However, although it's the same landmark, the House of Wisdom, they do have more options to age up. And most of the benefits that you get from aging up with these different options, they are almost immediate. It's not the same as the Abbasid that by aging up with a wing, you unlock different options for upgrades and research. And the Ayyubids have 2 different options for each wing with a total of 8 different age ups. No wonder the civilization is one of the most adaptable ones. When aging up with the Culture Wing advancement, the age up is cheaper and takes 20% less time to complete. After aging up with the Culture Wing logistics, your religious units, the Dervish, will be able to heal your units in area instead of 1 unit at a time. Actually, you can also do this yourself using and activating the ability, and with this age up, you get that automatically. It becomes passive, so you don't have to activate it yourself anymore. And besides that, once reaching feudal age, you also get 2 dervish. If you use this wing for castle age, you get 3 dervish plus a 25% healing bonus, and if you go to imperial age instead with this wing, you get 4 dervish and a bonus of 50% on healing. By aging up with the military wing master smiths, you get for free all the researches, all the upgrades from blacksmith for free for that age, but you do need to have a blacksmith. The military wing reinforcement allows your cavalry to build siege on the field, including your scout. If you use this wing to go to feudal age, you get 1 desert raider after 15 seconds and every 2 minutes after that. If you go to castle with this wing, you get 3 desert raiders, and if you go to imperial age with this wing, you get 7 desert raiders. The trade wing advisors gives you 3 attack units if you're going to feudal age, and these units can be garrisoned in military buildings to increase units' health by 20%. And if you go to castle, you get 5 attacks, and if you go to imperial, you get 7 attacks. The trade wing bazaar is also known as Gamba wing. It behaves a little bit like the Golden Gate from Rust. You get a few resources that you can exchange at a very favorable rate, but you can only use it every 3 minutes. And it can be resources for you to exchange, but it can also be units. You can have available for you Bedouin skirmishers and swordsmen. And then you can buy these units with gold and of course just use normally in the game. We call this wing Gamba wing because you don't know what you're gonna get. It's random. And finally, the economic wing growth. It grants you villagers once the age up is completed. If you go to feudal age, you get 3 villagers, plus the orchards are granted with 50 more food. If you use this wing for castle age, you get 7 villagers and 100 food more on your orchards. And if you use this wing for imperial age, you're gonna get 10 villagers, and your villagers, all of them, are going to work 10% faster. And besides the different age up options, you also get access to a few new unique units. The Bedouin skirmisher and the swordsman are unique units that you get when aging up with the trade wing bazaar. The skirmisher is a unit with bonus against light infantry, but it's weak against cavalry. And the swordsman is strong against melee units and weak against ranged units. The Bedouin are mostly nomadic Arab tribes that historically occupied the areas, the regions, lands of Saladin. And the Ayyubids often relied on these Bedouin forces for military support. They were valued for their wildness, let's say. They were good at scouting, at raiding, and just raw desert warfare. And this would complement the Ayyubids' more structured army. Another unique unit is the Desert Raider. This is a versatile camel unit that can switch between ranged and melee. These camels, just like any other camel units in the game, have the Camel Unease ability. It's a passive ability that scares the horses from your opponent, leading to minus 20% damage from them. Camel Lancer is another unique unit, but available in Castle Age. This unit replaces the Lancer, or the Knight, the usual Knight. And they have a more powerful charge as well, the Tactical Charge. They can charge more often, faster, and from greater distances than horses. And on top of that, the longer they charge, the greater the damage. The Ayyubids also have access to a unique type of mangonel, the manjanik. Manjanik is just an Arabic word for catapult. In the game, this unit can switch between fire and solid projectiles. Although there's no specific report of the Ayyubids using a specific type of mangonel just to throw fire at their enemies, the concept of Greek fire was already known in the Arabic world. Another unique unit of the Ayyubids is the Tower of the Sultan. Now imagine if a ram and a siege tower fell in love and had a baby. That's the Tower of the Sultan. This massive siege tower is capable of ramming down buildings while shooting arrows, and it moves faster the more units are garrisoned inside. The Atabag is a unit that can be garrisoned into any military production building to grant 20% more health to newly trained units. These units can only be acquired when aging up with the trade wing advisors, and the number of units you get depends on the age that you're going up to. Atabag is a title of nobility of Turkic origin, indicating someone responsible for taking care of the prince. But this title was also used for officers in the Mamluk Egypt. The Ayyubid religious units are also different. They are called Dervish. And besides the usual tasks of any other religious units, like taking sacred sites and relics and so on, and healing, they can do more than that. Their healing, for example, is actually in area, and this is an ability that you can actively activate, or you can have it passively activated. So like throughout the whole game, they are going to heal in area instead of one unit at a time. And to get that ability to become passive, you have to age up with the culture wing logistics. And another plus is if the dervish is actually holding a relic, the healing is even more intense, it's even better. And don't forget, of course, this unit is a mounted unit, so they are riding a camel, and because of that they are faster, but they're riding a camel, and camels in this game, they give you this ability as well, the Camel Unease, meaning horses around are gonna be scared and gonna deal less attack, less damage. The real dervish is a religious beggar that chose or accepted material poverty. There are actually many orders of dervish, and the whirling dance is known in the West for the performance of the Mevlevi order in Turkey. Ceremonies like the Sama are performed to reach religious ecstasy. And today, although not intended, this practice has become a tourist attraction in Turkey. The Ayyubids technologies and upgrades are also very similar to the Abbasid ones, with a few exceptions, with a few new ones. For example, the Sultan's Mamluks, which can be researched at the blacksmith in Castle Age. It grants infantry 25% more damage and 20% more movement speed for 10 seconds after killing a unit. Mamluks were enslaved soldiers or mercenaries that still held some kind of high rank position in military or administration. This practice of recruiting slaves and turning them into soldiers and Mamluks began actually in Baghdad by the Abbasid. And if you want to know a little bit more about this, you can also watch my video on the Abbasid where I talk more about it. In any case, the Mamluks were the ones more prominent during the Ayyubid dynasty, and before that the Ghulams were the most prominent ones. Despite all the great things that I mentioned, such as the economic growth, the education, sciences, Ayyubids still lacked a centralized government. and this gives space for betrayals and disloyalty everywhere. But the final blow came from outside. The beginning of the decline follows the Seventh Crusade and the beginning of the rise of the Mamluk Sultanate. During the Seventh Crusade, the Crusaders actually asked the Mongols for help. They needed the Mongols' help to invade Egypt. These understandings, however, did not last long, as the Mongols had some other plans of their own. In any case, the Crusaders moved towards Egypt to attack. The Sultan moves his troops towards there to defend, and in between all this chaos, the Sultan fell ill and died. His wife, though, took control of his troops, and she was actually successful in defending and fending off the Crusaders from Egypt. However, we have to remember that the population in Egypt and from the Ayyubid dynasty was increasingly Mamluk. Her son was named Sultan, but for some reason he was against them, and he ended up assassinated. Because when you're against the greatest part of your population, people are not happy. And what happened is simply, let's put it this way, the Ayyubid dynasty was overthrown by the Mamluk Sultanate. They took control of everything, and despite attempts to regain control of the area, they were not successful. They tried to ask for the Abbasid for help, but they didn't make it. And meanwhile, the north region was being pushed by the Mongols, and they just could not stop the Mongol invasion at all. They destroyed the rest of the Ayyubid dynasty and the Abbasid as well. Only the Mamluk Sultanate was able to stop them from advancing further into the region. So once again, I have to complete the videos explaining that the end of the civilization was brought by the Mongols. Now I just want to add as well here in the end some ideas that I had, and I have seen also some people talking about it as well. Some ideas to change the civilization slightly that would make it more unique, because right now it looks like Abbasid. It just looks like the same civilization with different names. So here it goes. For example, their landmark, the House of Wisdom. It makes absolutely no sense to have House of Wisdom with the Ayyubid dynasty. It cannot be. The House of Wisdom is in Baghdad. Ayyubids, we are talking about the whole Egyptian and North Africa area, not there, not Baghdad. No, just no. We need a new building, right? A new big mark that represents the Ayyubids better. And there is one. The Cairo Citadel is actually a great example of something that the developers could use in the game. And it's so big, it has also the same wings structures that I think would fit better and make the civilization more beautiful and more unique. And on top of that, the Cairo Citadel was actually built by Saladin and was the seat of government for more than 700 years. Can anyone top that? It's perfect. The second point is the Ghulams. The Ayyubids still have the Ghulams as their man-at-arms unit, right? And in my opinion, they should be renamed as Mamluks and maybe get a new skin. That would be also cool. Just the name makes all the difference already. So maybe even if that's too much work, why not use the Bedouin swordsman as the man-at-arm from the Ayyubids? I think if these units that are locked behind a specific age-up was actually a barracks and archery range unit, I think that would be more representative of the civilization, something that we see more often and not locked behind an age-up. In any case, that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I know it's a short one, but still, I think it's important to talk about. There's a lot of content also in the campaigns of the game, so if you're interested, I really recommend playing the campaigns of the Sultans Ascend. Is really great, and I'm sure you're gonna have a great time playing it. Again, thank you very much, and like this video if you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you get notifications when more videos come out, and I see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.